Alright, so now that we have understand the user interface of Autodesk Revit and also the basic settings which we are required to do when we are carrying out a new project, let's see how we can start a simple building project in Autodesk Revit. Now, first, to start a building project, we're going to activate or select the wall tool from the architectural tab here in the ribbon area. And when we select the wall tool, we have from this properties window, we can change the thickness of the wall. Let's say we are going with that of 250 millimeters in thickness, and we also have option of changing the location line either from wall center line or to core center line. We're going to explore all of this in the course of this tutorial. And should in case we don't want to make use of this 250 millimeters, we have this option, we have this option where we have the edit type, which can enable us to change or have our own customized thickness and then add materials and carry out other things which we want to do with this very particular one. So basically we're going to work with this, and for now we have on the options bar here, we want to maintain offset of 0, and we want to maintain a chain wall, and we're not drawing a circular wall, so the radius here will be unchecked. And then for the height, default height is set to 8,000, and as you can see from the project browser, the level we are currently working on is level 1, and our walls is going to be the base constraint or the base level is set to level 1, and then the height of this wall is set to 8,000 and is unconstrained. Now if we want to set the height of this level to, the height of this wall to any of this level, say level 2 or level 3, we can click here and change the constraint from level 1 to level 2 or level 3. And we can also do that from this very particular properties browser or properties window. So this is also set. We can set this to level 2 at this point. Now that we have that selected, we can go ahead and click to create our wall like this in Autodesk Revit. So when you click, you can see that the center line or the location line is at the middle of this very particular wall. So we click to create a horizontal wall, and we can come down this way to create a vertical wall like this, and the center line is still at the center of the wall. And immediately we click this, you can see that over here the walls, the vertical and the horizontal walls are perfectly joined together, just like that. So when we keep drawing like this, our walls, we can draw as many walls as we can. Now this is set to chain, so we can draw the walls continuously. Assuming that we uncheck the chain, we're going to draw only this wall, and after that you can see that the wall command has been deactivated. And if you want to draw a wall again, you go back or you click on a new position to start your wall. So we're going to have the chain set back, and we're going to click at another point or at a different point to draw our walls just like this. Now another thing to understand with this again is the use of the location line in your drawing. So here we have option to change the location line of the wall. So basically, or initially we were working with the wall center line, we can decide to use the core center line. So when we have that selected and we click to draw our walls, we can click, and you can also see that also in this case the location line is at the center of the wall. So the core center line and the wall center line are somehow similar, but in the case where we have a composite wall, this is going to function differently. So basically we have a simple wall, and so the location line for this wall, both for the wall center line and core center line, are the same. Now if we go ahead again and change the location line from core center line to finish face exterior, and we can then draw, and you can see that this center line has moved from the center of the wall to the top. So you can see if you keep drawing like this, now the location line has changed. So if you draw in a clockwise pattern like this, the location line is going to be basically at the inside of this very particular drawing, just like this. We can as well also change the location line from finished face exterior to finished face interior. And then again, when we try to draw these walls, you can see that the level or the position of the center line has moved from the top to the bottom, and as we keep drawing, we go up. You can also see that the location line also changed from the left to the right, and so on. Again, we can also change from finished face exterior to finish to curve face interior. Now, to understand these two, curve face interior and then curve face exterior, we're going to change from simple wall, and we're going to change the the type of wall which we are creating from a simple wall to a composite wall. So we have here a stacked wall in Autodesk Revit, and when we click on this, we can create a composite wall in Autodesk Revit. So we can click and you can see that we have this wall created like this. Now, to understand this very well, we're going to change the visual display from what we have as coarse to at least fine, and we're going to change this also to a realistic view. So if I zoom, you can see that this is a composite wall having the core wall itself and the finished face. So again, let's go ahead and change the location line from core exterior, and then let's start a new wall. So you can see that when we try to draw the walls, the location line is at the exterior of this very particular composite wall. So this is where it is located. And if we now go ahead and then change this to curve face interior, and we try to create a wall again, you can see that the location line is at the exterior of the core finished face of this very particular wall. So this is how you can make use of this location line when you're creating a wall in Autodesk Revit. So now that we understand how to make use of the location line, let's see how we can create a simple building in Autodesk Revit. So we're going to go ahead and select all of these drawings or all of the walls we've created and have them deleted. And again, we're going to go back to Architecture tab and click on Walls and change our walls from what we have initially to a basic wall of let's have a basic wall of say 300 generic 300 millimeters thickness. So again, we're going to change from from the core face interior to a wall center line, which is basic for your drawing. And make sure that the plan here is set to level 1. We can go ahead create a simple wall like this, and we just click and drag to create our walls like this. Now also note that when you activate the wall command, you have an option of drawing from the draw panel here. We can create our walls just as a single line, or we can create our wall as in a rectangular form just like this. We can also create our walls either as a polygon in this form. So we can also create our walls either as another polygon with inscribed circle like this. You can also create a circular wall just like this. And in the case of a line or creating the wall in a line form, we can create a wall like this, and we can also use arc to create our walls just like this, and then we can define the radius like this. We can also use a spline just like this, and then we draw our walls, or use this spline. We can draw our walls like this and our walls looking like this. So these are the different options which we can use to draw our walls looking differently from the draw panel here under the ribbon. So now that we have understand how to carry out different drawings of the wall with this draw panel, let's see how we can create a simple building with this wall tool. We're going to go ahead, select and click and drag to select all of these walls which we created and delete it. However, we can see that our elevation tag is also selected. So in the course of deleting this, we're going to delete the tags as well. So we go over to the filter here. So go ahead and uncheck the elevations, uncheck the views, and leave only the walls, and then we can click on OK. So you can see that only the walls which you created are selected. We can go ahead and then delete these walls from our drawing or from the drawing environment. Again, let's pick this wall and see how we can create a simple building. So we can click and drag to create a building like this. So we can click delete this, go ahead, pick the wall tool, and we can click here to create a building or a wall like this. We can hold the shift key to make sure that our drawing is orthogonal, so we can draw either horizontally or vertically without being inclined. So we can make use of the shift key to do that, and then we can use polar tracking or snap settings to track the end of this wall, and then we can finish our walls like this. Again, we can make use of this option to change if you want a specific dimension. Just click on this, go ahead, let's say this is going to be 12,000, and we go ahead and press enter on the keyboard, and we can have a specific measurement or dimension of this wall as 4,000. If you want to measure this, we can go over to the modify tab, and we have this option for measurement, and we pick that. So we can click here, and we can click here, and you can see that this wall is 12,000 millimeter in length. So that is how we can create our basic wall in Autodesk Revit. Now to view, or we can change the view, because this is created in the floor plan view. We can change the view from 2D to 3D by clicking on the view tab, and here we have the 3D view. So we click on 3D view, default 3D view, and this is our wall in 3D view. We can also access that view from the project browser by clicking here and click on 3D view, so we can see our drawing in 3D views like this. So with the help of this, we can see our drawing. Again, we can make adjustment to these walls by clicking on the walls. We can either increase the height of the wall from here, or we can move the wall by extending it, or we can edit the profile by clicking on edit profile, and then we can select this very particular line that makes up the wall, and let's say we're going to add an arc to this. So we click here and create an arc, and we go ahead and select this and have it deleted. So when you're done with this, you have an option either to cancel or to approve the creation of the wall. Then we go ahead, approve, and you can see that this wall, instead of being straight at the top, is having an arc shape. So this is how you can be able to manipulate or work around with the wall command in Revit. Now I'm going to undo all of this from the quick access toolbar. So I can undo this from the quick access toolbar and go ahead and undo, or I can as well use Ctrl Z on the keyboard to undo all that I have done on this very particular one. Now that we've been able to add a wall, let's go back to our level 1 and see how we can add a floor. So go to architecture tab on the ribbon, and then here we have the floor command. So click on this drop down, and we have an option to create architectural walls. So I'm going to click on this, and once this is open, also from the properties palette here, we can see that this is having information concerning the floor, which we're about to create in Autodesk Revit. And then over here on the ribbon, we have the modify/create floor boundary tab open. So we are first required to define the boundary of this floor, and we can do that by creating or picking a line, drawing a line. We can draw a line around this particular wall which we created, or alternatively we can undo this, and then we can decide to pick or draw a rectangular wall like this for the floor. We can draw a rectangle, but since this shape is not a single shape, is a composite shape, we cannot make use of this. Other options also is we can pick lines, or we can pick walls. So I'm going to make use of pick walls or pick lines, any of these. So let's go with pick walls, so that we can pick all the walls here to create the floor, or to create the boundary for this very particular floor. So I'm going to pick this wall. I'm going to go ahead and pick this wall, and pick all the walls like this. And when I'm done with that, I'm satisfied with the boundary, I can click here to approve, and you can see that this floor has been created and it is shaded with this sky blue color. Again, go ahead, we can access this view in 3D by double clicking, and you can see that this wall is created in Revit. Now after adding our floor, the next thing we can add to this design, or to this very particular building design, is to add windows. So go over to the architecture tab under the ribbon, and we can select door or window. So let's say we are adding the door first, and also on the properties window here we have all that is concerning the door. So we can click on this drop down to pick any door of our size. I'm going to work with the default door that is available, and I can place a door like this in Revit. When I'm satisfied, also I can go back to the architecture tab and pick the window, And likewise, I can also place a window at any position of my choice. And then after that, I can add other components. Say for instance, I want to place a component, a site component. I'll go to place a component, and then I have furniture component here. This is a furniture component that is available. I can then place a furniture component. This happens to be a table. And in case you have some components that are not present here, we can go to insert on this where we have insert tab under the ribbon, and then we have option to load family. So these are some Autodesk files which we have already downloaded, so we can load them from wherever it is being saved to our drawing. So we have, these are different component, site components, door components, which we can load and make use of in our drawings. So when you want to make use of these, select them and go ahead and click on open, and you can as well add them to your project or to your designs. So this is how you can add the doors, windows. And the next thing we want to do now is to see how we can add a roof to this very particular floor plan design, simple floor plan design in Autodesk Revit. But before that, let's see how we can navigate. So let's use the navigation wheel, and we can orbit like this to see our drawing in 3D. And let's change the visual style from just wireframe to, let's say, let it be realistic. And on a realistic view, we see that our floor plan is looking like this. So again, we can make use of the navigation wheel and orbit, and we can see our drawing looking like this. We can zoom, and then we can pan, and so on. And this is how it looks like. Again, let's return to home view. So I'm not minding the fact that this house is looking like this, but basically this is how you go about drawing a plan in Autodesk Revit. Now let's see how we can add a roof to this very particular plan. So we're going to go ahead and return to level 1 floor plan, and this is our plan in 2D mode, and we can change the detail level or the visual style to hidden. So we have our floor plan looking like this, and this door was not properly placed, so we are supposed to move this door to go inside, and this looks more better. And then after that, we want to create our roof on top of this very particular wall. So we can go ahead again and click on architecture tab on this ribbon, and then we have an option to create roof here. So we have an option to create roof by footprint or by extrusion, by face, and there are other options as well. But for the purpose of this, we're going to choose creating roof by footprint, and immediately we do that, we will be prompted to select the work plane. So you have created the roof on the lowest level. Would you like to move it to level 2? So it is recommended that your roof should be at the level that is above that of the walls itself. So I'm going to choose level 2 to be the level at which I want my roof to be placed. So I'm going to go ahead and click on yes, and then that is going to activate the modify / roof creation footprint in modify / create roof footprint in Autodesk Revit. And you can see that also from the project browser here, from the properties panel here, we also have information pertaining to basic roof, generic roof of 300mm thickness. So we can create the boundaries of the roof by either drawing lines or by drawing a rectangle or by picking our walls, just like we did in the case of the floor. And for the purpose of this, I'm going to choose picking lines instead of drawing lines. So I'm going to pick this line, I'm going to pick this line, and I'm going to pick this line, just like this. Now we've been able to pick these lines, and you can see that there are smaller rectangles attached to these lines, and over here you have 30 degrees. So these rectangles are defining the pitch of this very particular roof, and you can make changes to that from your options here. So you have on the options bar here, you have define slope. So if we have this check, you're going to see all these rectangles, but if you uncheck this, you can see that all the rectangles will not be formed. So let's go ahead and select all of this. Go ahead and then select all of these lines and have it deleted, and then again we're going to select pick line, and for the define slope, this will be unchecked. And as we go ahead picking the line, you can see that those rectangles are no longer displayed because we've unchecked the define slope. So our roof basically is going to be a flat roof. But if we now go ahead and define slope, we can then have a hip road or whichever type of road we intend to create. So again, go ahead, pick lines, and we're going to define the slope here. And in most cases, we want to have a roof that has an eave, so maybe about an eave of 500 millimeters from the edge of the wall. So let's define an offset of 500, and we can go ahead and pick our line. So you can see that the lines here are they are not exactly at the position of the wall. If I zoom, you can see that they are not exactly at the position of the wall. They are rather about 500 millimeters from the edge of that wall. So we can go ahead again, pick round, and make sure that we pick round and then create our roof just like this. Now when you're able to pick all the lines and you're satisfied with what you have, you can go ahead and click on this green to accept whatever you've been able to the roof you've been able to create. So we can again go ahead, go to view, and then view our roof in 3D. So and now this is a very good prompt in Autodesk Revit. We have been working on this project and we have not saved this project, and this is prompting us to save the project so that we cannot lose this project in case of anything. So we're going to go ahead and save the project, and we can choose a location where we want to save this project, and then we can name this project. Let's say building project. And AutoCAD Revit files are always saved with .rvt. So all AutoCAD Revit except that of the families are saved with the file extension of .rvt, and we can go ahead and click on save, and now we have our drawings or our design saved, and we can then see this design in 3D. So this is how our design is going to look like in 3D. We can orbit and see how our roof and all our designs look like in 3D. Now another thing you should note is we can be able to change the materials of this component, either the walls, either the roof, either the floors, from the materials on the properties panel. For instance, let's select this wall and we want to change the material. So we go to edit type on the properties palette, and we have an option here to edit, and here we have structure. We can then change the material of this. So click on this and wait for it to load, and then I can scroll down from here and choose any material of my choice. Let's say I want to make use of this let's say this door frame, and go ahead and click on OK, and that's going to apply the material to this very particular wall. So you can see that our walls here are now looking different in color from the ash color which we have initially. So that's how you can also apply materials to any of your designs or any of the elements which you are drawing in Autodesk Revit. Now we are done with the modeling of this building in Autodesk Revit, and we can return back to level 1. So on the level 1, which is the floor plan, basically our building is going to look like this, and on level 2 we have the roof plan, and the roof plan is somehow not completely seen, but we can make adjustment by going to the properties palette, and here we have the view range. We can edit the view range from here and then change the view depth here to, let's say, about 8,000, and then go ahead and apply, and then change the cut plane here to also 8,000. Go ahead and apply and click on OK. So you can now see this roof plan looking properly like this. So that was because of the view range. Now we can see our plan for level 1 and level 2. So level 1 is floor plan, level 2 is our roof plan. We can also see our building design in 3D, and one last thing we can create from here is a section. So assuming we want a section of this building, on the view tab here, and we click on view tab, we have this option for section. So we click on section and we can define a section like this. We can either change, and we have the view, this section view pointing at this direction, showing that the section line is going to display here, and we can change the direction from this top side to the bottom part. And when we're done with that, we can double click and on this view to open the section of this drawing. So that is basically, this is how the view of this drawing is going to look like in section. So we can change this also to realistic, and you can see that our section view is going to look like this. Now that we understand the basics of Autodesk Revit, let's see how we can change the visual display and then render our floor plan in Autodesk Revit. So again, we're going to go back to 3D view. So go to the view tab and click on 3D view, and we're going to set this to home view, and we can zoom out, and let's say we change the view to this side, and we have this view like this, and I want this view like this, or let's return back to home view, and we have our view like this, and our materials have been applied. Okay, then we can save our drawings by click on this application menu, and we can save this drawing which is already saved, or we can also click on the application menu and save as if we make some changes and choose any of the options. Now that we've saved our drawings and we want to render this drawing in Autodesk Revit, we can change our display to realistic and also make sure that the detail level is set to fine, and then you have this icon, show rendering dialog box. We can click on this, and this is going to bring out the rendering dialog box, or we can also access that from the view tab here on the ribbon. So here on the view tab, we'll click on render, and that is going to bring out the render dialog box, and then you can make some settings here and then go ahead and click on render and wait for it to render your project. And when it is done rendering, you can go ahead and click to close the render window, and then that is how you can work with Autodesk Revit. I hope you enjoyed this beginner's tutorial in Autodesk Revit. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to your friends if you find it helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.